This chapter did a great job of showing us what's going on with both groups, but for me, just seeing Robin sprout wings and fly was spectacular.
One Piece, chapter 453, Cloudy, partly Bony.
Man, did you say Bony? Oh, goodness. A tale of two chapters, or two halves. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and zombie generals of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you another review on the awesome and spectacular and wonderfully written and domestically disturbing tale of One Piece. Our last chapter focused primarily, well, actually solely, I guess I would say, on the group that did once contain Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro. Now, by the end of that chapter, all three are gone. Luffy being the last one to fall, and Robin and Frankie being caught between a spider monkey and a bunch of zombie generals behind them on this passageway bridge leading from one area to another, one building to another, within this huge sort of Dr. Hogback's evil castle out of some kind of Scooby-Doo-ish nightmare. That's how things wound up leaving off, and things actually pick up in the first half. We go back to Perona's Wonder Garden from 2 chapters ago, and if you remember, obviously we had our group, Usopp and Nami and Chopper, were surrounded. However, as one of the zombies things, whatever, from the Wonder Garden went to go and actually grab Nami or hurt Nami, the penguin, this little penguin-looking guy, wound up nailing that dude, and we found out that penguin at least has the soul, at least, not the body, but the soul of Sanji. So things wind up picking up over there right at that point, and they're like, hey, you're not supposed to be able to think on your own. You're supposed to be like the zombie, the rest of the zombies. You're supposed to just follow the orders, that you're given. And you're also strong as a zombie general, right? So we find out more and more that the lipstick comes off the pig, and literally in this episode, or in this chapter, we actually have a boar, which is also sometimes called a pig, and this boar, Lola, is wearing lipstick. So, very good, because I've been using that phrase for about 25 years now, I'd say, 20 or 25 years, and now it's finally coming full circle to fruition, because we're actually seeing lipstick on a pig. Anyways, as this portion of the chapter progresses, the main thing here is that Sanji, we know, of course, will not hit a woman, no matter what. They try to go, and Usopp goes and says, oh, well, since if you're Sanji, maybe you could help us. And he's like, no, I'm not helping you filthy pirates. And then Usopp's like, oh, no, it's not him. So whatever it is that turned him into this, or whatever, he still has his... He basically explains that the reason he's able to fight against these, the orders that were issued to him and whatever type of control the zombie generals or Absalom or whoever or Perona or Moria has over him, and he goes and he says, it's because the ultimate undying endless power of love. And we know that's Sanji, right? Because even Nami goes and she's like, that's the same type of stupid shit that Sanji's always saying. so we know that it's him, or at least his spirit in there. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, though, man, boy, I tell you, all the other zombies kind of go and take off a little bit. Kind of scatter to the wind. And they're like, what the hell? And all of a sudden, we see, and it reminds me of Miss Piggy from the Muppets, right? Because she's always like, oh, Kermit, come here and give Miss Piggy a kiss, And this Lola's like, oh, it's the cat burglar, And Nami's like, what? I haven't even stolen anything yet. But now, if you remember from a few chapters ago, the funny sort of little domestic type deal that we got going on the reality show part of this is that this Lola, this boar zombie thing, wants to actually go and get together with Absalom, who is some kind of invisible, perverted, wizard-y type guy that looks kind of like a cat, like a feline. I don't know. He looks like a reject to me from maybe like a Thundercats or something like that. So anyway, so she comes charging at him, and what happens is Sanji winds up going and jumping in front and actually taking the blow. And Usopp's like, why didn't you go and hit back? And he's like, I would never kick a lady and this and that. And then Usopp and Chopper start clapping, and they're like, good job for you actually recognizing or thinking that is a lady, right? Because it's just this giant boar, and yes, it's female, but it's this huge... So anyway, so Absalom goes, and his invisible ass comes over, grabs Nami, and starts running off with her, and they're like, oh, look, Nami's floating. And I love just the dim-wittedness that you see from Usopp and from Chopper. They are so much like the Scooby and Shaggy duo of this particular piece of One Piece here, right? The comic relief amongst them is great, because they're just like, oh, look, Nami's floating. She's like, no, I'm being kidnapped. Oh, maybe it's that invisible guy again. So then... she goes, Absalom appears and says, oh, and you're going to be my bride and this and that. And then she's like, you think I get all dressed up nice and look good like this for some weird undead zombie general, some perv? You perved on me in the bathroom. So she goes, boom, it hits him with a thunderstruck or a thunder something, right? You know, thunder punch from her staff, from her climb attack. And he gets the shit shocked out of him. She gets away. She's running, trying to get back together with him. Anyway, it doesn't affect him like normal people do, probably because he's dead or undead or reanimated or whatever. And he's just like, what's that feeling? Like electricity, you know? And a lot of times they say when you're in love, it feels like there's this electricity in the air, right? There's just this feeling of that, like it feels like all your hairs are standing on end and your nerves, you know, and you're just so excited. And that's what he goes and chalks it up to. So the comedy in the first half of this was great. The comedy was awesome because he's like, oh my god, it must be the feeling of love, right? So anyway, as we go and we're taken away, things are kind of left hanging there at that point with them. You know, with that group. The other half of the chapter takes us back to the actual bridge, and we wind up seeing kind of a quick shot, face shot of you know, Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy, and then it's kind of like in a word bubble thing, like, oh, so that's what happened, they got sucked into that wall or whatever, and I don't know if it's the zombie wall or some other type of wall or whatever, but basically they're trying, we kind of figure out as the viewer, as the reader, that while we were gone, they must have been talking to this Tarolan, the spider monkey, and trying to get information out of him on where Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro went to. And so he's sitting, and this thing is big, imposing, menacing thing that's, you know, got to be 50, 100 feet tall. They figure out that he's obviously the one that put the web out there, right? That captured the Thousand Sunny as well as Brook's ship in there, so they couldn't get out, even if they didn't need to come and get their compatriots, their companions. And so anyway, so Frankie's like, you know what, enough's enough. The zombie generals are behind them, spider monkeys in front of them. They're basically like, you're done, blah, blah, blah. Frankie's like, I'm going to take care of this. And Robin's like, I'll try to follow your lead. And her outfit is just drop dead, sexy, gorgeous in here too. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so before I get too excited about that, all of a sudden he's like, okay, coup de vent! And he goes and blows out the bridge, right? Blows out the bridge. Everybody starts falling down and everything like that. And then what I thought was cool is Robin goes and grabs his ass, and she goes and sprouts fucking wings like Icarus. And I'm like, oh, wow. He's like, you can fly? And she's like, yeah, for about 5 seconds. Not nearly long enough, right? The cool thing is when they show a kind of zoomed in close-up thing of the wings are actually just a series of arms and fingers connected together to create wings. So obviously making so many of those, it's a big strain on her probably physically and mentally, and that's why she can only maintain it for about 5 seconds. So very cool stuff though, man. I thought that was really neat to see. So Frankie goes and he's strong right, and he goes and puts out his arm that's obviously got the chain attached to it and whatnot, is able to grab onto the ledge, and they're able to pull themselves up with a little bit of difficulty, but they do get up. And then they're basically like, all right, you know what? Those guys have fallen down to the courtyard. They're still going to be a problem, but they're not going to be a problem right now. So then we get the spider monkey, Tarolan. He's like, I'll climb up and I'll be right up there by you, right? And they know that obviously Frankie and Robin know that now, man, we got to find Luffy. We got to see what the hell's going on with everybody. That, you know, the lipsticks come off the pig, literally, you know. So, but and then of course, like I said, in the first half, you had, it was funny because it left off with Lola chasing Usopp, Nami, and Chopper. But anyway, at the end of the chapter, all of a sudden, as if from out of nowhere, it seems like he fell from out of the sky. All of a sudden, we get Brook. Brook just goes and falls in here. I love this shit. They're like, someone is falling from the sky, and then he's like, bone, because I'm a skeleton. And I just kind of like Brook. You know, I hope to see more of him here. He looks like a really cool character. Luffy's already asked him to join the crew, and then they did need a musician, so everything winds up fitting. So hopefully by the end of this arc, he does wind up actually joining the crew. But even if he's just in the story temporarily, I think he's just kind of a cool cat, man. He just reminds me of just this real... I don't know, man. He just reminds me of like a combination of like Prince and like Michael Jackson, like Black Michael Jackson, like Michael Jackson from like Thriller, Bad, like from the 1980s before he had all them fucked up surgeries and he looked like some kind of alien, you know. But that just sort of reminds me of that sort of vibe with almost with like kind of like a just sort of that cool, smooth, suave like James Dean, Elvis Presley sort of, you know, demeanor and candor. And because he's a musician, that's what I'm thinking of all these different musicians, you know, that obviously, you know, throughout the years and whatnot have been pretty popular, and they're had a unique style and appearance and just sort of demeanor and candor to them. So anyways, that's how things left off over there. My chapter question for you, brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts on the on just the whole thing between the love triangle, if you will, between Nami, who's the unwilling participant in the love triangle, Absalom, who's a goddamn pervert, obviously, and should be probably shot in the testicles. Actually, they should probably take and put his nuts in a vice and sit and turn it about a half a turn every few minutes over there. That would be some torture, my friends. But anyway, you didn't hear it from me. And then, of course, Lola, the literally the lipstick being on the boar or pig. What are your thoughts just on that whole little goofy-ass love triangle? Do you think it's comedic, and do you enjoy it for what it's supposed to be? Or do you think it's kind of stupid and overplayed and doesn't have a place in here? Let me know what your answer is to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up and the like button if you should think that I deserve it. And subscribe if you have not done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation. I'd like to thank you for watching and encourage you to check out my other channels and follow me on Facebook and Twitter as well.